Nigeria is not caused. Nigeria was designed this way. What you call insecurity today, bandits, kidnappers, terrorists, unknown gunmen, is not an accident of bad leadership. It is the final product of a system that started over 200 years ago with blood, religion, conquest, and power. Every fear you feel at night, every ransom paid in whispers, every soldier sent to die without answers, it was programmed long before Boko Haram had a name, long before unknown gunmen became a headline, long before the first kidnapping went viral. A map was drawn in blood, a crown was placed by foreign hands, a people were rearranged like chess pieces on a board they never saw. Your enemies do not always wear black. Some wear agbada, some wear uniform, some even wear holy books. And the most dangerous weapon in Nigeria has never been a gun. It is controlled chaos. Because when a nation is afraid, it never asks the right question. Who profits from the killing? Who benefits from the fear? Who sells the weapon? Who funds both sides? And why over 200 years ago, no matter who is in power, the blood never stops? I will show you the fingerprints they left on your history, the deals made in secret, the wars that were never meant to end. By the time this video is over, you will understand one terrifying truth. Nigeria didn't fail. Nigeria is working exactly as designed. By the late 70s, northern West Africa was a patchwork of Hausa kingdom consisting of the Gobi, Katsina, Kano, and Zazu. These states were wealthy but suffering internal corruption, heavy taxation, and religious laxity in the eyes of conservative scholars. Usman Fodio was a Fulani Islamic scholar and a reformer who preached a return to stricter Quranic practices and criticized the ruling elite for moral corruption and unjust rule. His message attracted large following among both the Fulani pastoralists and Hausa peasants who felt exploited. Before the war began, Hausa land was already cracking from within. Islam had become mixed with old traditional practices. People worshipped trees, rocks, spirits, and still called it religion. Rulers banned Islamic dress, discouraged conversion, and tried to silence preaching. To Usman Fodio, this wasn't faith anymore, it was corruption. The leaders themselves were no better. The Hausa rulers taxed people brutally, took bribes, sold justice to the highest bidder, and appointed their friends instead of the qualified. Sharia was ignored, power was abused, the poor suffered while the elites lived like kings. And beneath all this, Fulani communities were treated as second-class citizens, their property seized, their people exploited, their voices silenced. Tension with the rulers escalated when Yonfa, a former pupil of Fodio, who became Sultan of Gobi, began to restrict Fodio's preaching and influence. Yonfa attempted to assassinate Fodio, an event dated as far back as 1802, and increasing repression forced Fodio and his followers to flee and regroup at Gudu in the early 1804. Facing persecution and convinced that the Hausa rulers were illegitimate in religious terms, Fodio declared a jihad, positioning himself not merely as a preacher but as Ame Amomoni, which means commander of the faithful and a political leader. All this tension exploded when Sultan Yonfa, a former student of Fodio, turned against him, restricting his teaching, attacking his followers, and trying to crush his influence. Forced to flee to Gudu, Fodio made a choice that could change West Africa history forever. He declared a jihad, not just against a ruler, but against the entire system he believed had lost its soul. The war that followed blended religious reform, ethnic tensions, political ambitions, and economic opportunity. Fodio's forces, described as a mix of Fulani cavalry, warrior scholars, and dissatisfied Hausa subjects, fought a series of campaigns against the Hausa rulers. Despite some early setback, by 1808, his movement had seized key cities and established the Sokoto Caliphate. The jihad overturned existing kingdoms, replaced rulers with caliphal governors, and instituted a new political order grounded in stricter Islamic laws. The caliphate rapidly expanded into surrounding regions, and by the time of the 1820s to 1830s, it had become one of the largest and most popular states in West Africa. Two brutal facts came out of the movement. 1. Violence became an acceptable means to seize and legitimize political powers. 2. Fodio's movement institutionalized a clerical military state where religious legitimacy and forces reinforced each other. Whole ruling houses were replaced, rulers were deposed or executed in some areas, people were resettled, and the Sokoto administration established a network of emirs who collected taxes, enforced Sharia, and maintained military forces. That combination, religious sanction, military control, made the new order resilient and set a model where forces and faith were fused in governance. The Sokoto Caliphate remained the dominant and regional power until the scramble for Africa. In 1903, the British defeated the last caliph and incorporated the Caliphate territories into the northern Nigeria protectorate. The British then used the policy of indirect rule, co-opting the emirs and traditional structure rather than dismantling them, which preserved the Caliphate's social and political influence inside colonial and later independent Nigeria. That continuity meant that the structure that Fodio helped created survived into the modern state institution we call Nigeria. The jihad legacy is complicated. On one hand, Sokoto created durable Islamic institution and scholarship that still shape northern Nigeria's identity and law. On the other hand, it normalizes violence and political currency and created powerful local authorities, emirs and aristocracies with deep ties to state and informal power network. In the modern day, some extremist group reference Sokoto jihad rhetorically to claim historical legitimacy, but modern militant differs in aims and method. More important for your narrative, the pattern of using religion to legitimize armed takeover, elites using force to sustain power, and external actors shaping outcome created a historical template where violence becomes a recurring tool of politics. After the caliphate was established, the elite class emerged, a ruling class, a warrior class, and a silent suffering class. Raids became normal. Expansion became a lifestyle. Fear became control. This created something dangerous, a culture where power comes from force, authority comes from fear, and obedience comes from survival. Insecurity didn't start as a crime, it started as a strategy. When the British arrived, they didn't remove this violent control structure, they upgraded it. They ruled the north through the same caliphate system. They called it indirect rule, meaning old power stayed in place, old fear stayed in place, old violence stayed in place. But now it served the foreign interest. Insecurity became deeper, more organized, more political. This was the moment violence became institutional. After the independence, the gun did not disappear. It just changed the uniform. Military coup, civil war, ethnic cleansing, political assassination. Power was no longer sacred. It was contested with weapon. Violence became the fastest route to relevance. From that moment, Nigeria never healed. It only recycled trauma. Today, insecurity wears many marks: banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, cult war, unknown gunmen, but they all drink from the same river: poverty, failed leadership, weak justice, weapon proliferation, political protection. The foot soldiers are hungry, the commanders are protected, weapons arrive faster than food, ransom moves faster than justice, and fear spread faster than truth. Here is the part they don't want you to understand. Insecurity is no longer a problem, it is now a business. Security budget runs into billions. Emergency contracts are signed in silence. Weapons are purchased endlessly. Relief funds disappear. If peace truly comes, some contracts die, some budgets shrinks, some pipeline close. This is why insecurity reduces during election and explodes after. That is why soldiers fight without proper equipment, but politicians move with armored wars and armored cars. Fear has become a currency, and as long as fear pays, insecurity will never end. Nigeria is not unsafe because we are weak. Nigeria is unsafe because violence was rewarded, fear became profitable, and blood became negotiable. This is not chaos, this is a system.